and welcome to the Immigrant Real Estate podcast with myself, Dr. Cristina, and we have a surprise guest, and that would be me. The reason I considered actually sharing a little bit with you here from my own experience is because I'm an immigrant to the United States. I came here about 5 years ago. I married a very talented songwriter. We met in Rome, very romantic story. I lived my whole life in Romania, and while I've been reading the books of Robert Kiyosaki and so on, I didn't know much. Actually, I didn't know anything about actual real estate here in the United States. It's been a passion for me in Romania, and actually my first trip to United States was the result of a deal I did back in my country. So I think real estate is an opportunity anywhere in the world. And in the United States, when we're talking about investing in real estate, we're not necessarily talking about having the money down and going around and buying properties. Anybody in the world can do that and buy something here in this amazing country. What we're talking about more, it's about financing and how do you get the money to purchase these properties. And this is where 5 years ago, I've seen a house and I'm like, hey, there must be some solutions. I heard about no money down solutions and so on. And I would like to buy that beautiful house on the Oregon coast. This is only to show how much I did not know anything. And my husband was a little bit reluctant, like, hey, you don't know what you're saying. You don't have the money down. And I was thinking, well, I can figure out a way to get the money down. But then what else is required? And I went and saw a realtor and asked about all these things. What else is required? So this is how I learned that for, let's say, a normal mortgage, you need to qualify, and in order to qualify, you need to have a good credit, a long credit history, which is not the case for immigrants that are in the country barely arriving here. And I also needed the last 2 tax returns. I had none. Basically, I did not know anything. And when I've learned about all these things and I asked, what else is possible? Well, all you can do is to wait these 2 years. And if you have a business, then it's a little bit more difficult than if you're employed. So interesting. And I bought it. I'm like, okay, if this is what's required, what can I do? In time, actually, I learned that there are other solutions. It's something that's called creative real estate investing. And you can actually find owners that paid off their mortgage and they own their house outright, and they can actually be the bank. So what does it take for you to find someone like that with the house that you actually like and with an owner that's willing to do this? If you have a good job, I see that as a possibility. And then it's just the papers between the two of you and understanding the closing and all of that. And maybe you don't even need to pay 6% for a realtor, right? Yes, there are so many things involved in this transaction. Normal real estate transaction involves many people different from the realtor, loan officer, title company that checks the title, has the title. There are many, many moving parts. The escrow company and so on. So it's a little bit of a learning curve, and I would really like to speak more about this. And if you have questions, please do ask, and we'll make future episodes based on your questions. But for now, let me continue with the creative real estate solutions. So I just said about the owner financing. This is one way you can do if you have a really nice job and you find someone willing to be the bank for you. That's a great solution. They can actually hold the mortgage for you. Something else you can do is to take over a mortgage yourself. Someone who has maybe they need to move, or they don't want to pay that mortgage anymore, and you can take over it. This is a little bit, you need to talk to an attorney here. In some places, you cannot actually just take over the mortgage without you yourself applying for a loan. So be careful with this. Another solution would be lease option or rent to own. And this is where you actually lease, which is like you rent, and you have an option to that contract to buy it in a certain period of time. Now, you need to be really mindful here to that period of time to be enough for you to build your credit and to be able to come with the down payment. And would be the best if you work with the loan officer that would guide you through the process and will tell you exactly what you need to do to qualify for a loan after that period of renting. But the contract has to happen in the very beginning, the lease option. I had a situation myself where we rented this house that we really like, and it wasn't through a property management company. It was actually the owner, the one who was taking care of the property. And he had this idea, he kind of knew something, but none of us actually were very clear on what's required. And he said something like, in 2 years, maybe you can buy the house. The thing is, it's not that in 2 years you can buy the house. From the very beginning, when you start this, you have to have the lease and the option to buy. So he was, so he heard something about this. So he was like, yes, you can take care of the house as if it's yours. And for instance, you can make improvements, because there were some things like the kitchen was outdated, and the structure of the house was nice, but cabinets and floors and everything could need an update. He's like, yeah, you can fix it and have it like yours. And I'm like, but if I fix it myself and I'm renting, why would I do that? I increase the value of the property for you. And yes, you can tell me that you sell it to me at the value it has today, but that's just a word between us. The way it actually works is, from the very beginning, you sign the lease and the option to buy at the price. Let's say you buy in 2 years or in 3 years, but you have in that option to buy the exact price you're gonna buy the house for. So let's say that house, let's say if it was $300,000, the way we should have done it was like, hey, here's the rent agreement and here's the option to buy for $300,000. And if you then put more money, invest something in the house, then the value of the house, you'll pay the same amount, the $300,000, not more because you made it nicer and it's not worth more. So, and this actually assumes somehow that the value of the house increases, but that's the beauty of rent to own or a lease option, is that you have the option to buy, but you don't have the obligation to buy. So if in 2 years or 3 years something happens to the market and the value of the house is not where it was, it's actually lower, you don't have to buy it. You can move on or continue to rent or find another solution. So there are possibilities, and I would love to talk more to you about this. Let me know what's of interest to you. But let me go back and make a point here. It's the best if you have a strategy even before you come to the country, even or before you move, or if you have a strategy and know what you desire. And then let's say you have a job and you go in a certain area. Find those investors that have motivated sellers. Why would someone do a lease option, do a rent to own deal with you? And the answer to this, I mean, there are many reasons why someone would do something like that. Let's say they have to move and they didn't have time to actually sell their house. And all of a sudden they move in another place, they pay a rent or they pay another mortgage, and all of a sudden they have 2 mortgages. But if you come in with the rent to own, then the rent you're paying covers the mortgage, and the fact that you're going to own it, you can do some maintenance of the house, so they don't need to be there and fix it for you if something happens. You take care of the house as if the house is yours. That's the idea, to be like you're basically controlling the house with that option to own it. So, and there are other situations where people would just choose to lease option their property, and it's a great idea for you because you get to see, do you really actually like that house? How many times, and when you purchase a home, it takes, you see, and there are all kinds of appraisals and things that are done to ensure that the value of the house, it's what you're buying for. But when you live in a place, you start to see how your neighbors are, how the school is. You start to realize some things about the house, about the kitchen, about the closets, and so on and so forth. And you actually have the time to build that credit, to get the information, to get accustomed to and adapt to a new country without worrying that if the roof falls on you, you have to pay $30,000 or something. So there are many ideas and solutions. And if you'd like to hear more about this, let me know in the comments. And there's a website, the immigrantrealestate.com, where you can subscribe to the email list, and I'm going to send you the new episodes. Every Tuesday, a new episode is released. We have this in podcast on all major podcast providers, from iTunes to Google Music, Google Play, Spotify, and so on, and also on YouTube. So let me know in the comments, let me know somewhere, and would love to hear from you. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching the Immigrant Real Estate Podcast with myself, Cristina.